On the morning of December 26, 2004, Sri Lanka's coastal regions basked in the warmth of a normal tropical Sunday. The rhythmic sounds of the Indian Ocean provided a serene backdrop as families prepared for the day ahead. Fishing boats dotted the shores, children played along the sandy beaches, and commuters boarded trains for their morning travels. Unbeknownst to them, deep beneath the ocean's surface, a colossal geological shift was underway. An undersea megathrust earthquake with a magnitude of 9.1 had just struck off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. This seismic event, one of the most powerful ever recorded, would set off a chain reaction, leading to one of the most devastating natural disasters in history. Hello and welcome. My name is Bert, I am your story traveler. And this is the world's deadliest tsunami train disaster, miracles amid the tragedy. The Queen of the Sea, officially designated as train number 50, was a cherished mode of transportation for many Sri Lankans. It was more than just a train, it was a symbol of daily life, connecting the bustling capital city of Colombo to the tranquil town of Mataram along Sri Lanka's scenic southwestern coastline. On this particular day, the train departed Colombo's Fort Station shortly after 6:50 a.m., carrying over 1,500 passengers. The carriages were filled beyond capacity, a common occurrence during the festive season, as both locals and tourists sought to explore the picturesque coastal towns. Families, merchants, and travelers of all kinds shared the packed compartments, some enjoying conversations while others dozed off to the steady hum of the moving train. As the train meandered southward, passengers gazed out at the idyllic landscapes, lush greenery on one side and the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean on the other. Children pressed their faces against the windows, mesmerized by the passing scenery, while vendors moved through the aisles, offering refreshments and local delicacies. The atmosphere was one of joy and anticipation, with no hint of the impending catastrophe. A mysterious receding ocean. At approximately 9:30 a.m., the train made an unscheduled stop near the village of Peraliya, close to Telwada. The sudden halt piqued the curiosity of many on board. Passengers peered out to see villagers pointing towards the ocean, where the water had mysteriously receded, exposing the seabed. For those unfamiliar with tsunami precursors, this phenomenon seemed almost magical. A few ventured closer, collecting shells and taking photographs. However, for others, especially the elderly who had heard ancient folklore about the ocean drawing back before a great wave, an uneasy feeling settled in. Some urged their fellow passengers to seek higher ground, but with no official warnings, many remained where they were, unaware of the catastrophe that was about to unfold. The first wave strikes. Without warning, a massive wall of water appeared on the horizon. The first of the tsunami waves unleashed by the earlier earthquake. In an instant, the once distant ocean surged forward, swallowing the coastline with terrifying force. The wave crashed into the village and the surrounding areas, flooding homes, uprooting trees, and sweeping away anything in its path. As the water engulfed the train station and the tracks, passengers inside the Queen of the Sea found themselves trapped. Some clung to the train's metal bars, while others scrambled onto the roof, desperate to escape the rising water. Those who had stepped out of the train moments earlier were either swept away or desperately trying to find refuge on anything that could float. The second deadlier wave. Minutes later, before survivors could fully comprehend the destruction, a second and even more formidable wave thundered ashore. This colossal surge, towering over the coconut palms, struck with unprecedented force. The Queen of the Sea, despite its substantial weight, was no match for the tsunami's might. The overwhelming power of the water lifted the train off its tracks, tossing carriages like driftwood and smashing them against trees and nearby structures. Passengers inside had no escape. Water filled the compartments in seconds, drowning many instantly. Those who had climbed onto the roof were now thrown into the violent currents, struggling against the debris and the relentless force of the sea. The nightmare unfolded in mere minutes. What was once a scene of tranquility had turned into sheer chaos and devastation. Aftermath. A nation in mourning. In the immediate aftermath, the once vibrant village of Peraliya was transformed into a scene of utter destruction. The train lay in twisted ruins, surrounded by debris and the personal belongings of those who had been aboard. Survivors wandered in shock, searching for loved ones amidst the wreckage. The death toll was staggering. with estimates suggesting that over 1,700 individuals perished in this single incident, marking it as the deadliest rail disaster in world history. Survivors recounted harrowing tales of being swept kilometers inland, clinging to debris, and witnessing the unimaginable destruction of their communities. Rescue efforts were slow, hindered by the sheer scale of the disaster. Entire villages had been wiped off the map. Bodies were found entangled in tree branches, buried under rubble, or floating miles away from where they had last stood. A monument to remember. In the years following the tragedy, the site of the disaster has become a place of solemn remembrance. A monument now stands near the location where the Queen of the Sea met its tragic end, honoring the lives lost on that fateful day. The memorial serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictable forces of nature. Annual commemorations are held, with survivors and families of the victims gathering to pay their respects and share their stories of resilience and hope. But amid the wreckage, the heartbreak, and the immeasurable loss, something else emerged, something more powerful than the waves that tore through Sri Lanka's shores. Hope, survival, and the unbreakable human spirit. The miracle of Baby 81. In spite of the chaos, there was a single moment that captured the world's attention, a symbol of hope buried beneath the devastation. In a battered hospital in the eastern city of Kalmanai, an infant, barely 2 months old, was pulled from the wreckage. He was found alone, caked in mud, with no parents in sight. No one knew his name. No one knew where he came from. The staff at the hospital called him Baby 81. He was the 81st patient to be admitted that night. But this wasn't just another case. It was a mystery. The tiny survivor had no identification, no one to claim him, and no way to tell his story. As days passed, word of the baby who had cheated death spread like wildfire. Soon, 9 separate couples stepped forward, each claiming him as their own. The government was forced to intervene. DNA testing was ordered, and what followed was a legal battle unlike any other. One that gripped not just Sri Lanka, but the world. The truth was finally revealed. Baby 81 was the son of Marugapillai Jayarasa and Janita, a couple who had lost everything to the tsunami. In the chaos of the surging waters, their child had been torn from their arms, swallowed by the monstrous waves. They had searched endlessly, believing he was gone forever. But fate had other plans. When the DNA results confirmed their parenthood, the reunion was nothing short of extraordinary. Janita collapsed to her knees, sobbing, as her son was finally placed back into her arms. It was a moment of pure and raw emotion, one that reminded the world that even in the darkest of times, miracles can still rise from the depths of despair. Today, Baby 81 has a name: Jayarasa Abhilash. He is no longer the nameless child pulled from the wreckage. He is a young man with dreams, ambitions, and a future that once seemed impossible. He is living proof that life can begin again, even after the waves take everything away. Community resilience and the children who rose again. The story of hope didn't end there. In the heart of Gale, one of the hardest hit areas, a sanctuary emerged for those who had lost everything. The Dadela Children's Center became more than just a shelter. It became a beacon of second chances. Built in collaboration with humanitarian organizations like Children Incorporated, the center provided more than just food and a roof over their heads. It gave displaced children the one thing they needed most: a future. They were given education. They were given medical care. They were given the chance to heal. But the most extraordinary part of this story isn't just that these children survived. It's what they did next. Years later, many of the very same children who once sought refuge in the center returned, not as victims, but as mentors. They came back to teach, to care, to ensure that no child would ever feel alone in the aftermath of a disaster again. The cycle of suffering had transformed into a cycle of compassion. These were not just survivors. These were warriors of resilience. Rebuilding the land. The Mangrove Guardians. But it wasn't just the people who needed healing. The land itself had been wounded. Entire coastlines had been swallowed, reshaped by the force of the tsunami. And in the wake of destruction, Sri Lanka learned a crucial lesson: nature had always been its first line of defense. The tsunami's impact was devastating, but some areas fared better than others. Scientists and conservationists made a startling discovery. Where mangrove forests had been left untouched, the damage was significantly less. The realization sparked a nationwide movement, one that would bring life back to the land. Communities across the country came together in an unprecedented effort to restore what was lost. Thousands of mangroves were planted, each one a shield against future calamities. The people who once saw the ocean as their enemy became its protectors. And in doing so, they didn't just rebuild their land, they fortified their future. A world that came together. But the greatest testament to humanity's resilience came from the world itself. In the wake of the tsunami, a global wave of solidarity surged across continents. Governments, charities, and individuals stepped up in a way never seen before. Among them was Lions Clubs International, which raised an astonishing $15 million to aid in the rebuilding process. Entire villages were reconstructed, schools rose from the rubble, orphanages became homes for children who had lost everything. The message was clear: Sri Lanka would not stand alone. Personal journeys of healing. And yet, some wounds were personal and ran deeper. For those who had lost loved ones, moving forward seemed impossible. But some, like Nate Berkus, refused to let grief define them. The renowned designer was vacationing in Sri Lanka with his partner, Fernando Bengoechea, when the tsunami struck. As the waters surged, they were both swept away. Berkus survived, Fernando did not. The loss was soul-crushing. But in the years that followed, Berkus chose not to drown in sorrow. He turned to the one thing he knew best: creating beauty in broken spaces. His story became one of rebuilding, not just homes, but hearts. He spoke openly about grief, about love, about finding a way to keep going when the world collapses around you. And in doing so, he reminded others that healing is not about forgetting. It's about remembering, and choosing to live anyway. Lessons and legacy. The power of preparedness. Natural disasters can strike without warning. Investing in early warning systems, evacuation plans, and public awareness can save countless lives. The lack of tsunami knowledge in 2004 showed how critical education and preparedness truly are. Nature as a protector. Mangroves, coral reefs, and coastal forests act as natural barriers against disasters. When we protect nature, we protect ourselves. The restoration efforts after the tsunami proved that coexistence with nature is key to resilience. Human connection in times of crisis. In the face of catastrophe, human kindness prevails. From the volunteers who rebuilt communities to the families who took in orphaned children, the tsunami revealed the strength of global unity and compassion. Stories of hope can heal. Whether it's Baby 81's miraculous survival, orphans becoming mentors, or individuals overcoming grief, these stories remind us that even after the worst storms, life continues. Hope is stronger than destruction. Thank you for watching. What do you think of this very tragic massive event? And what are your thoughts on the incredible stories of survival and hope? Let us know in the comments below. If you're interested in more stories of extraordinary resilience from around the world, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Turn on notifications for more story travels. It's free and it doesn't cost you anything. Our video today takes us through the scenic route of the Bernina Express. The Bernina Express is one of the most beautiful train routes in the world. It is known for showcasing the stunning alpine landscapes and UNESCO-listed Rhaetian Railway, offering breathtaking views of glaciers, mountains, and lakes. It runs both directions from Cour in Switzerland to Tirano in Italy. Until next time, keep striving, keep believing, and remember, every journey tells a story.